Hello everybody, I'm back. This time with part 2 of 2 about truth and honesty in education at Capella University and Grand Canyon University, both institutions of learning where I was seeking a master's degree in mental health counseling, leading toward state licensure for becoming a professional mental health counseling, given the life experiences that I had had, and always having been a student of life, a student jumping through hoops to gain certifications and credibility in fields of career of my choice. It just so happened that on the last presentation, which I thought I wasn't going to have that conference call, at the very near the end of that presentation, the phone rang. So, of course, I had to cut it short. I have since had that meeting over the phone with those 9 PhDs. I'm looking for my lighter to light a candle, as I always do, inviting in Mama Nebthet. Again, Mama Nebthet has been with me since the day of my Kundalini awakening, guiding, guarding, and protecting me all along the way. And I love her for that. I also wanted to pick right up where I left off, talking about truth and honesty in education at the university level, about how a city called a university is a place where scholars gather, you would think, to discuss, debate, research issues that impact the current community. In most schools, particularly if you study psychology, you know we're always learning about B.F. Skinner, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Carl Watson, and the list goes on. And then later learning that one of my favorite of those was Carl Jung. In college at Birmingham Southern, I took an entire interim course on his book on the archetypes of consciousness and symbols. Little did I know then what I know now, having studied under the master Bobby Hemmett, that all of his work about the shadow too came from our ancestors in Kemet. The collective unconscious complexes, the shadow, which is melanin, 666 carbon, that part of ourselves that nobody wants us to know about, that part of ourselves that was demonized by Christianity, intentionally demonized. Did you know that Lucifer, the name Lucifer, was limited in the Bible? Because they wanted to keep us away from the true knowledge of the light bringer, the pineal gland, and Prometheus, who had stolen fire from Zeus and gave it to humans after that corruption involving the Divine Mother that landed us entrapped on this planet for many lifetimes. The Kundalini energy having lain dormant in the base of the spine, gaining energy, gaining power, and it is being released. And even though I didn't know when I enrolled in graduate school all about Kundalini, again, and even since my book that was published in 2015, I have grown in knowledge, awareness of who I am and what my spiritual body and makeup really is. But anyway, the conversation that I just had with the scholars at Capella took place. It was being recorded. I was also told that I could have a copy of the recording. I introduced myself, as well did they, and then I asked that this conference call take place because I wanted to know, based on the transcript of the communications between me and the other students in that practicum internship course. What was it that caused me to be in violation of the codes of conduct? I think in that first presentation I said code of something else, but I meant code of conduct. This committee was convened to address those issues. They had simply put large subheadings, I guess, about my violations, saying that, rather questioning whether I was fit for counseling. And so that's what we talked about. I wanted to hear from someone's voice what in the transcript I had done to violate. And by the end of that conference call, I still did not hear that. However, two people did speak up. One, which was a male, and he seemed to be under the impression that while on the site location, I was presenting information as an activist, which was totally untrue. I have never done that, nor would I. Understanding the field of counseling, understanding rules about confidentiality and self-disclosure. So that was never the topic while I was at that site. However, when one of the students verbally attacked me in front of the other students and a faculty member, calling me a faggot-ass nigger in front of everyone. Now, having been a teacher of behavior disorder students for many years, you and I both know the importance of a teacher maintaining control of the class. And what I did, which I believe was perfect for the situation, was use the skills that I had learned in anger management, because I am one who has a lot of anger, but I have learned how to manage it in a professional setting. And so I demonstrated remaining calm and simply responding to him. I am not a nigger, I'm a nigga, a god. And then I followed that up at our next session meeting in explaining the science of homophobia, the Harvard science of homophobia being hidden homosexuality, as well as research that I had learned while in graduate schools about sexuality, and how in the Erikson stage of development, identity versus role confusion, ages 13 to 21, and these students were high school students, that a person's sexuality is not cemented by that time. It is only by the end of high school, having experimented a lot of adolescents do with sexuality, by the end of high school they have decided their sexuality. So I am well aware of homophobia, having experienced direct attacks. You've seen me teaching about that on Facebook, about the science, the Harvard science behind why people do that, and that they are attempting to divert attention away from themselves in fear of dealing with aspects of themselves. So they lash out at others when they're around their friends during the day. But at night, and also from direct experience, they come to you and try to seduce you. And I never accept those type of advances. In my teachings online, people will love me for sharing all the knowledge that I have learned. But when they learn that I'm gay, they turn on me. And with that knowledge and that science, I am able to redirect the energy away from attacks on me back to where it really belongs, for people to look deeply at themselves, just like I do with self-healing. We cannot heal what we do not acknowledge about ourselves. Well, also on that day, and the director was present while I led that group session, I showed my presentation, Pharaohs, Gods, Kings, and Queens, showing black people prior to slavery, our rich culture and history. In fact, the knowledge that I had learned about myself and led to my healing from substance abuse. And so I knew that if I showed that to that class of mostly Hispanic and white boys and a few black boys, a black boy being the one who attacked me, that I could get them to think in new ways about themselves, about their substance abuse issues, and it will be a healing, have a healing aspect on everybody there. My director has often claimed that he is conscious. In fact, he has an ankh on his brochures. He wears a diamond-encrusted gold ankh around his neck. And I have spoken with him a number of times. He may not be conscious at the level that I am, but he considers himself to be conscious. But I didn't see a whole lot of evidence of that. But anyway, that interchange between me and him and those clients ended up with me in a conference call with my practicum advisor, and then now having to talk with that committee questioning my ethics. And I even told the gentleman who spoke up that I showed that presentation, why I showed that presentation, and that the director had said that he knew who I was, what I was about. He had seen one of my presentations, the one with the pharaoh hat, because he mentioned that. That's when I was in Birmingham, educating people there and getting my book in the library about the attacks on cities where mostly black people live. So he knew who I was and what I was about. And that I felt that he and I and that student should have had a private session where, just like I did when I was a teacher, had students apologize appropriately, stating what they did, what they apologized for, and what they would do differently going forward. And he did not agree to that. And so I would have been placed back in that group session with everything that had happened without being able to process and raise those children's level of awareness in the Erickson stage of identity versus role confusion, age 13 to 21, about what had happened. And I feel, based on other things that I won't discuss here, that caused me to question whether it was a satellite center, behaviors, in and out, traffic of the room, a person that I had observed in a different group who I recognized from when I was in DUI sort of treatment back in Birmingham. I never got closure about who that person was. And so there were a number of issues that caused me to respond to that student in that class about my experience at the university. So our conversation ended with me telling them that I had seen the similarities between what had happened to me at Capella University and that was happening here in the last week of the schooling process before the practicum. And I could not handle anyone thinking that they could reject me based on my knowledge, my experience, my teaching ability. No one can tell me who I am. No one can judge me about that. And so, realizing that the system as it is, attempting to work from the inside, is not in favor of people like me. I just wish that both of those schools had been honest about that when I introduced myself all along the way, rather than finally at the end finding what I consider to be erroneous reasons for removing me from the school programs that I have to pay for. And I probably will not be working in mental health in a traditional sense. So there are a lot of concerns about that. Will I sue? Will I expose the transcript on the internet to what exactly happened? And just like I do with HIV, in my effort to dent their financial gains through forwarding these lies, perhaps have some students reconsider whether Capella or Grand Canyon University is suitable to the needs of the spiritually conscious person. That's something that people can decide for themselves based on having information that they were not yet aware of. So that's what I do. I don't have any other recourse. I don't own any corporations. I don't have a deep pocket to pursue lawsuits. I can only expose what has happened directly to me. And again, I am all about scholarship, even though it is new knowledge, ancient knowledge about the chakras, about Kundalini. And I use the people that I admire and respect, the black, melanin, highly melanin master teachers that I've already shared and have talked about in other presentations. Dr. Nancy Turner Banks, MD, Harvard Medical School graduate, Dr. Jewel Pookrum, MD, Jyoti Mayat Ra, a world-renowned nutritionist, Scott Whitaker, a nutritionist, Dr. Scott Whitaker, and Bobby Hemmett, the greatest teacher of occult science and metaphysics there ever was in our time. And then Dr. Phil Valentine, whose presentations about HIV are also on my website, consciousdoctor.com, in the Rainbow Warrior Companion section. As you can see, I had also invested in this manual, preparing for the exit examinations from the master's program, as well as becoming a licensed counselor. That's a lot of work I had already begun, not to mention all the work that I've done throughout the years, creating PowerPoints, writing papers, reading, researching in the school libraries and in public libraries, come to think of it. All the papers that all the times I went to the Office Depot for whatever reason, all the libraries I had to, sign up for time on when I had computer trouble at home. As you can see, this is my study, equipped with all the things that I bought in order to achieve another degree, this time in mental health counseling. This is where I work most of the time when I'm not toting my laptop around with me. But anyway, that's what I wanted to discuss with you all here today, to give you an opportunity to think critically again about every decision you make. As the age of truth unfolds, even Catholic universities, as we expose the truth about mythology and the Great Divine Mother, and about Adalderbroth and Jesus and the lower demiurge entities that most people are praising these days and calling it God, not realizing, even when they say Amen, if they're not referring to Amen Ra, the sun behind the sun, they are giving energy to their enslavers, their spiritual entrappers, who have no intention of allowing our souls to develop in consciousness rising awareness, entrapping us here lifetime after lifetime. Again, I don't have to worry about that, because once the Kundalini is awakened, then you are living the last lifetime, though that process is treacherous, because unconscious material surfaces and must be integrated into the whole of who you are. It still can be transcended in ways that I've also taught about and will continue to teach about online, and hopefully being invited to speak about these and many other issues. Thank you for joining me here again today. Me and Mama Nebthet really do love you. We are the darker nature of the Kemetic Pantheon. If you think about the mythology of her life and all the sacrifices that she made, well, that's who she is. That's who I am. Learning that she was my cosmic mother gave me energy like you would not believe to persist through all that I do for you. We love you. We are healing the sacral chakra. We are busting up bogus HIV worldwide, wherever we are. And nothing will stop that process, not until my last breath. Okay? I hope you appreciate that. and you are talking to the people down the street. I am Dr. Damien Quentin Laster, aka Kabir Amin Ra Anpu Asar Set Harakti, the conscious Dr. Rainbow Warrior, metaphysical science, the science of our ancestors. Metaphysics. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.